we are going on 16 months living in a Victorian Italianate house in town as we build our farmhouse on acreage in the country. And I have some reflections about cooking in a small kitchen from the last 16 months or so. Now, there are a few things about cooking in a small kitchen that I actually really appreciate. And there are some that I would not want to repeat in a house if I could choose it. So we'll talk a bit about the kitchen design for our new farmhouse and what our last farmhouse offered in the kitchen department. I think it's interesting how much this can dictate how we use these spaces that we, if we are homemakers that do a lot of home cooking, find ourselves in quite a bit. I find myself spending most of my life in my kitchen, and I actually really love being in the kitchen. So for me, when designing a new house, that was the most important space and the one that I gave the most thought to. Now, first, a bit about the history of kitchens and why you'll find a lot of old houses have very small kitchens that are set apart from the rest of the house. They're not integrated into the family living space unless they've been modified in some way. So our last farmhouse, it actually was quite open to the dining room. The living space was kind of a rambly little walk away, if you will, but it was still where I could actually see it from the kitchen. That was because, though, it was renovated over the years. You could tell in at least two spots that the house had been opened up quite a bit. The kitchen originally was quite closed off, set apart, not fancy, a space designed for all work. Now in this house, this is more reflective of the time period this house was built in. It is basically down a hallway, a space that we would probably in modern times assign to a bedroom. That is where this kitchen is, and that's for a number of reasons. One is in Victorian times, cooking was manual and labor intensive. The family wasn't expected to spend time there. More on that in a little bit, because my family definitely expects to spend time in there. Servants were meant to be out of sight. They also were concerned with heat, smoke, smells. There was no modern ventilation. We also today have much larger appliances, so we need larger spaces. People expect to gather and entertain. So the function of a kitchen has certainly changed over the years. And I will say that in a lot of ways, even though I like old houses, I am definitely here for a lot of the modern reasons why our kitchens are larger. So we'll talk more about that. Today, I am making in my kitchen appetizers for lunchtime. Everyone loves lunches like this that we can all just kind of pick at. Already, people have been picking at my deviled eggs because I haven't made them in a while and they love them. So those are dwindling fast. We might not even end up sitting down for lunch today. But for the wings, they're really easy. I just bread them in a little bit of flour and salt. I like to fry them in either coconut oil or lard and then toss them in butter and hot sauce mixed together. While I'm in the kitchen this morning, I'm also going to get a whole chicken in the oven because we have a lot of things to do the rest of this day, and that way I can pull together an easy dinner tonight. Even though I spend a lot of time cooking for my large family in my small kitchen, it's not all work and no play over here. We actually have 2 trips coming up in March, believe it or not. Now that hasn't happened in probably close to a year, but the 3 girls and I have somewhere we're going, and then at the end of the month, Luke and the 4 oldest are going on a ski trip. And when we need a car for something like that, when we fly in somewhere, in the past, we have used Turo, and I'm looking forward to using Turo again next month. Turo is the better way to rent whenever you need a car. The brand has reinvented the rental car experience as we know it by creating a marketplace of hundreds of thousands of vehicles listed by a vast network of local hosts across the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, France, and Australia. By removing the hassle and rigidity of car rentals, Turo gives customers the freedom to choose the exact vehicle they want, pick it up where it's most convenient, and keep it for as long as they need. You can pick it up from a nearby host, have it delivered, or pick it up at over 170 airports across the US and Canada, whatever's easiest. Rent a spring break ready car, not a rental car. Renting a car on Turo is super easy. Type the name of the airport or location in the search bar, and then use the search filters to find the car you need. So for us, when our whole family is traveling, We need to find a large vehicle, whether you need all-wheel drive or a specific model. Unlike at rental car places where you get to choose a very broad category, you can find specifically exactly what you need for your trip. My favorite part about Turo is not waiting in the long lines at rental car places. This has been a big source of frustration when traveling with a large family. You also can specify if you need car seats. Picking up the car with Turo was so much easier than a traditional rental car. So it's something that we go back to again and again. If you are traveling this spring break, make sure to check out Turo. So I mentioned earlier that the farmhouse where we lived for the last 6 years before living here had a kitchen that was quite open. You could have multiple people in the family all in the same room, all making food. There was different spots where someone could go. They could either be at the main cabinet run where there was some counter space, or the island, or the kitchen table, which was all in the same kind of wide open room. This kitchen does not have that same luxury. The first thing I noticed when we moved in here, after cooking for so many years in the other kitchen, was that it was very convenient to get to everything. I would go to put away the dishes and I could almost just about stand in the exact same spot and reach all the places where the dishes went. So I felt like I was taking less steps. Everything felt very convenient as far as getting ingredients. Again, just 1 or 2 steps from the fridge, the pantry, the oven. It's very convenient. However, after living here a little bit longer, I learned how difficult it is to have multiple people trying to prep food at the same time. But that's something that happens a ton in our family because we have a large family. There's a lot of hands preparing food. Now, I believe this kitchen actually could function a little bit better with a little bit of renovation, and that's something that we would do if we were staying here very much longer, because the sink counter divides the kitchen and it's very difficult to get to the other side because there's a refrigerator right in the way. So if someone can work on something that they don't need the oven, like say they're just going to be chopping or using the mixer, they can go over to that part of the kitchen. But when we get 2 or 3 more kids in here, someone's always standing in front of a cabinet where you need to be. We do tend to want to gather in our kitchen, and that can be kind of challenging in a smaller kitchen. In our new house, I definitely have borrowed more from my last farmhouse's design than this one, in that it's going to be open. It's not going to be very historically accurate, but that's something that I think over the years, as modern people have used kitchens a lot differently, a lot of houses have been adapted to accommodate that. Today in my small kitchen, I am making spaghetti and meatballs. This is something I can pull together really fast and easily. I have some boxes of sourdough pasta on hand, heavily salt the water. I have a bunch of coarse salt that I've picked up from various things that I don't really like to use in a lot of things because it has to dissolve. So I use it to salt my pasta water. I also had a bunch of whole grain sourdough biscuits in the refrigerator from making biscuits and gravy a few days ago. And this is the perfect opportunity to use those up. I just toasted them on a baking sheet, put them in the blender, and they make some real tasty breadcrumbs. I sometimes will not even toast them. I'll just put them directly into the meatballs, all crumbled up, but the flavor is a lot better if they're toasted first. Another thing I find interesting about homes in Victorian times and the purposes of each space, they really prize quiet, orderly front rooms or parlors. And the parlors are where all of the entertaining happened. In a lot of old houses, the parlor has a separate door. Actually, that's the case in our home that we currently are living in, and our last house, actually. There was a separate door into the parlor because that's a space that you could keep clean. You could put all of your best furnishings and art and decor. It was a place where you could invite people into while hiding all of the noise and the mess that goes along with the work to a different room. The kitchen space was tucked away. Dining happened in the dining room. Entertaining happened in the parlor. Work happened in the kitchen. Rooms had a very strict purpose. I think it's interesting that so many things led to the way we view kitchens today, and that likely our homes will be very outdated in 100 years, but the shifts in how we use our spaces just change gradually over time. certainly challenges in cooking for a large family from scratch in a small kitchen, we have found ways to make it work. One is having a few other places that people can do prep work. So we put a table over on that other side of the kitchen that feels very disjointed. It's a difficult place to get to. There's a bit of a maze with the dishwasher and the refrigerator, but still someone can go over there if they are chopping potatoes or mixing up a dough of some kind. We have an espresso station over there, so that's kind of out of the way, set apart from a lot of the other prep work that's happening in the main part of the kitchen, where we really only have this small section of countertop to work with. There's also a small section to the left of the stove, but since it's set apart and kind of blocked by the sink, we find most work happens on this main section of countertop. So the key with that is keeping it very decluttered and putting away any extra appliances that aren't being used. We also do mid-cooking cleanups way more often than we would if we didn't have a small kitchen. So once we're done using the baking powder, that has to go back in the pantry. Once a certain cutting board is no longer needed, that gets washed and put away so that we can use this same section of countertop to roll out dough or cut a couple onions. Today I am using this very small space to mix up some dough for tortillas today. This is the whole grain freshly milled tortilla recipe from my blog farmhouseonboone.com. I like getting this going in the morning and then just letting it sit on the counter until lunchtime. It will very nicely complement the beef roast I put in the Instant Pot this morning. Beef burritos are on the menu today. Well, I hope that you enjoyed going along with me as I cooked for my large family in our small kitchen this week. I will leave links to all of the recipes in the description box below. Stay tuned because soon we will have more updates on our new old farmhouse kitchen. I really can't wait to cook in there. This kitchen has been a blessing. It has really served our family well, but the kitchen I designed specifically for our needs is definitely calling my name, and I can't wait to get there. Lemon juice, garlic powder,